Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today joining me is Utsav Chakrabarti and Utsav Sandhu, both from Hindu Action, and we are going to be taking a look at what is happening in Canada, especially with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, this expelling of diplomats. But there is a deeper story, perhaps, that is being kept under wraps. So we are going to find out what is happening. Let's first welcome our guests. First off, I'd like to welcome Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsav, namaskar. Welcome to PGurus channel. Long time no see.
Namaste, Sree. Happy to be back. Always love your audience. Fantastic show.
Thank you so much, Utsav. And I have a new guest today, Utsav Sandhu. Utsav has recently joined. Thank you, Utsav. Utsav has recently joined Hindu Action. He is their VP of Policy. He is a dual citizen of Canada and United States. So we thought it fit that he come and explain what it is growing up being a Canadian. Now he's taken up residence in the United States. But we're going to take a look at this unfolding story. I have a small slide deck to share with you viewers. But before all that, please like this video. If you're not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. You have to hit the bell button for notifications if you're watching this on a cell phone. So here we go. The first question people are asking is, well, Justin Trudeau has pointed out that Nijjar was gunned down in Canada and that this has an Indian government's hand. And citing this, he said that Nijjar was a citizen of Canada and that his killing has been done allegedly, again, he's not able to prove that, by somebody close to the Indian government. And then saying this, he has expelled one Indian diplomat. And within 24 hours, India hit back by expelling a Canadian diplomat. I'm not going to take names, it's not right. So we're going to leave it at that. The most important thing here is, upon digging a little bit about Nijjar, it is not clear if he was ever a Canadian citizen. He comes into Canada with a fake passport under the name Ravi Sharma. He gets caught. And then they deny him asylum, but somehow he manages to find a bride for him within 8 days of arriving in Canada. And then he marries her, and then he uses that information to apply for citizenship again. So this is what happened. On February 10th, 1997, he came in with a fraudulent passport that identified him as Ravi Sharma. And then his refugee claim was rejected. 11 days later, I'm sorry, I thought 8 days, he married a British Columbia woman who sponsored him. Now, Nijjar's wife, who worked for a Surrey produce company, had arrived in Canada in 1997, sponsored by a different husband. And so see the thing here. I mean, this is February 10, 1997. That girl comes in within 40 days. She's already divorced her existing husband. She's ready to marry this guy, and she marries this guy, right? So despite being rejected, he calls himself as a Canadian citizen. Now, this part, I don't know if Trudeau was right or wrong in depicting this person as a Canadian citizen. So tell me something, Utsav S. Utsav, what are the rules for citizenship in Canada? You arrive as an asylum, you say, I want refugees, I want asylum, I'm a refugee. Can you walk us through a little bit about what happens during this process?
So I worked for the government of Stephen Harper, the predecessor to Justin Trudeau. And from my understanding, this individual, Nijjar, attained his citizenship under that government. In particular, I believe the Minister of Citizenship, Chris Alexander, you might have heard of him. And the way it works is, the thing with Canada is they have a very generous asylum policy where almost anyone that walks in, if they have a really good, I'm sorry to say, sob story, and they can prove political persecution, they are usually admitted into the country. And the way it works is you don't need like clear and convincing evidence to prove that you are a genuine asylee. What you need is just a very minimum baseline amount of evidence, not entirely the totality of evidence, but just a very, very low standard. And then with regards to his status, he then, asylee status going forward, he was able to establish residence through his wife when he married her, got a PR card this way, and then after a certain amount of time, one can become a Canadian citizen after they've held that permanent resident card. I think it's like for a few, I forget how many years precisely, but it's a few years. It's actually not that bad. And the Canadian immigration system pumps in, it has a lot of money that allows for a quick adjudication process. It's actually one of like the best countries in the world to immigrate to.
So let me ask you this question. So it is still not clear, once your refugee claim has been rejected 2 times,
yeah,
right? It's a sham marriage. That's what the immigration authority said. Do you think they would have had a rethink after a few years? Because this is 1997, 25 years ago. Do you think there might have been a rethink on part of the Canadian immigration service, and he might have got himself a permanent residency card and then, of course, the citizenship?
So the thing is, when Mr. Nijjar acquired those benefits, that was under the government of Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, a liberal. And at the time, we have to understand, this was the pre-9/11 era, where you know, the world was not under, the Western world was not under this kind of deep security state system where every little thing was scrutinized, every little fact, every little detail. Also under that government, there were a lot of Khalistanis coming en masse to Canada, usually using the same kind of story, almost copy-paste, very similar to the kind of letters that I believe that separatist MP in India spoke about. Name has just slipped my mind.
It's Simranjit Singh Mannu. Yeah.
That's right. So that's the sort of strategy that these guys have done. And you would think, okay, the Canadians would have been wise, but when you have all of these cases coming in that look very similar and identical to one another, usually it doesn't trip any red flags. The other thing also to understand is that a lot of the cases against this gentleman, I don't believe it was shared with the Canadian government. I don't think India and Canada at that time had this kind of well-connected, database, a joint database that showed certain discrepancies or any kind of crimes that Nijjar had done in India or any accusations that he faced. I don't think there was like a connected matrix. Now, in today's era, we certainly have all of these things because of the internet, because of intelligence sharing, intelligence cooperation. 9/11 truly changed everything.
Yes, indeed. And I'm just going to roll with you on the screen. These are some of the things that he is being accused of. In 2016, the Indian authorities alleged he was linked to a 2007 bombing in Punjab. He was also accused of involvement in multiple cases of targeted killings in Punjab. And I mean, the list is long. The list is long. Now, what has happened is Nijjar monitored the recruitment and funding of young Sikh men for terrorist activities. Here is an Interpol notice for his arrest. Now, this also was ignored by Canada. Justin Trudeau is bringing it up. I'd like you to answer this question, and then I'll go back to Utsav. Utsav, I'll come back to you with a couple of questions. Go ahead.
Which Utsav?
Yeah. So this guy claims that he is a plumber. He was doing plumbing work. It's a small company that he was running, and suddenly he has become the head of Khalistan terror force, something like that.
Yes.
KTF, Tiger Force.
Yeah, he allegedly had been trying to restart Khalistan Tiger Force. I think. Yes. Yeah. And just for the viewers, KTF has an association with Babar Khalsa, I believe. Babar Khalsa International, BKI. So it's very important to note that. Now the thing is, with regards to the Indian government, I'm not too sure how much of that information they shared with the Canadians, and I'm not too sure how much information they disclosed to Interpol. It would be very interesting to see what the disclosures were. But in regards to Interpol, I mean, they felt a lot of these cases against these Khalistanis were hyper politicized and that they were lacking in information. Again, I don't know who's telling the truth in the story, but it certainly, according to Interpol, it didn't meet the standard that they were looking for.
So we know now that there are some gaps in this whole narrative, whether it was the Indian government not pressing them with data or whether the Canadian government chose to ignore it. Whatever be the reason, Utsav, this is Chakrabarti. Utsav, I want to take you back to this particular thing. Somebody arrives in Toronto on a fake passport. I mean, your intentions are malified, and suddenly he is blessed. And according to Canadian rules, you can become a naturalized citizen after a period of time. Is this what the world has come to, Utsav? Because it has become much worse today. There was a video on Fox News, only Fox will show it, CNN won't show it, of people being bussed out to San Diego, then being let off. Somebody is asking him, can I just go to Chicago? He said, yeah, be my guest. So it's like there are no checks and boundaries. Things have become really, really bad. What is going on in the United States, Utsav? Because some of these people will creep into Canada also.
Correct. And see, Sree, that has been one of the concerns that has been talked about in political circles in America as well as in Canada now. Because if there is no scrutiny on who comes in and what their background is, and in some cases, in the case of Nijjar, some of these people have been accused of killing people in India, and those pieces of information were provided. I mean, that's why the Interpol did bring out the lookout notice for him. Now, the Canadian government ignored it. That is, it's completely up to them for doing that. But there is a real and serious concern in America, in Canada, and many parts of Europe about the way in which undocumented and illegal immigration is happening in many of these countries. Out of the genuinely innocent people who most of the time are doing this, there are serious concerns about terror organizations and terror groups and criminal transnational criminal organizations using these networks to push people in. And in the case of Nijjar, as you can see, I think right now it has become a prestige issue for the Trudeau government, especially for Trudeau himself. So he's going to probably go all out in defending Nijjar. As you can see, that this is more of a personal issue for him now. And I think the relationship between India and Canada, the rights of Indian Americans, Indo-Canadians, and Hindus in Canada are going to be the victims of that. They are going to pay a price for this kind of personal position that Trudeau is taking. And what I'm concerned about, Sree, and I'm sure you're going to touch upon it later, is that there is already a very belligerent and a very aggressive, almost violent narrative, actually not almost, real violent narrative that is being pushed forward by the Khalistani cult members in America and Canada. And this is going to feed into that. And I'm concerned about the lives of the individuals from the American Hindu, the Canadian Hindu, and the Indo-Canadian and Indo-American communities.
So back to Utsav S. Utsav, here, this man has made an emergency statement in the House of Commons. What does an emergency statement mean? You worked in the government in Canada.
So it usually involves national security issues that is very pressing to the homeland. It usually involves a declaratory statement that indicates there is something that can essentially affect the order of the country, and it has to be brought to the attention to the public at large. It can also be a way to essentially raise a concern about the country's sovereignty that's under threat, and also like the basic infrastructure of the government. And it is quite a serious thing when such a statement is made. It's also very unprompted, and it usually is brought forth there's like a parliamentary schedule. There's like a procedure. There are like different slots that are scheduled in the parliamentary proceedings. So this kind of like overtakes all other scheduled items.
It's higher priority. Okay, understood.
Yes.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you. And now let's take a quick look at this slide. This is just published on pgurus.com, viewers, so you may want to read that news item. Also, the best is being saved for the last. There is more information coming. I want you all to stay glued in till the end of this hangout. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Here, 9 terror-supporting Khalistani groups have bases in Canada. This is something that the government of India has given to Canada. These are outfits such as the WSO, KTF, SFJ. SFJ we know, KTF we have touched upon, BKI we have touched upon, Babar Khalsa International. They have operated allegedly freely from Canada, and 8 people implicated in terror activities, and as many gangsters conspiring with Pakistan's ISI. I mean, India is not pulling any punches. Utsav Chakrabarti, it's not pulling any punches. They have laid it all down, saying that these are the people, these are the organizations, you guys have done nothing. Within 24 hours, India, in a tit-for-tat move, expelled some Canadian diplomat also. Now, Trudeau is walking it back a little bit, but we'll touch upon that a little bit later. Utsav C, how many of these organizations are you familiar with? WSO, I don't know what that is.
So I am familiar with almost all of them, some more than others, especially, we have done shows on SFJ and we have seen what they are up to. But Babar Khalsa International, Khalistani Tiger Force, these are organizations that are criminal organizations. And I, as somebody who was a young kid in the 1980s, I grew up hearing these names. I grew up hearing these names associated with the murder of young children playing in playgrounds with bombs exploding on their face. I grew up with hearing the name of Babar Khalsa International, pulling out people from the bus because they were not wearing a turban and shooting men, women, and children out of the bus. So these organizations bring back very sad memories for me as a child growing up in northern India. And I think Justin Trudeau probably knows that if he has gone through the archives and as a prime minister, I hope he does his homework. And the largest terror attack in Canadian history that has ever happened was in 1995. And in 1985, more than 300 people were killed by one of these organizations, and that remains a tragedy for everybody. So I think most people who are a little bit into this research will fully agree that these are not narratives, these are not news items, these are not organizations that have a point of view. These are terrorist organizations, and at some point Justin Trudeau has to honestly deal with this, I hope. And I think it's good for Canada, it's good for America. No country should be supporting terror organizations under any excuse.
Thank you, Utsav. Utsav Sandhuja, 51 countries have sort of responded in a lukewarm fashion to Trudeau's claim that there was interference by India on grounds in Canada. Now, I want to draw a parallel between this and the killing of a Pakistani, Karima Baloch. She's a Pakistani Canadian. She drowned in a lake allegedly, and not a word thus far from Canada about that. This happened a few years ago. The only man who was asking for justice was 𝗤𝙤 𝗖𝙩. Poor man is now no more, and I really miss him. But the thing is, why is it that Canada chooses to use this case and ignored completely the other case?
Okay, so this is an excellent question. So many answers for this. First of all, Mr. Nijjar, as you accurately pointed out, he entered Canada under very, very bizarre claims. He was granted certain permissions to essentially be in that country, and there was a clear security lapse. So I think Mr. Trudeau doesn't want to come off as weak, so he's deflecting by bringing up this BS allegation. The other thing to take into consideration is something that's not been talked about really anywhere, and this is my chief criticism about the narratives. There are 2 active criminal investigations on Nijjar's death. One by the local municipal police of Surrey, and the RCMP, which is like a federal police force, the Canadian equivalent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. And why did Mr. Trudeau come out of nowhere to essentially taint this investigation? Why is he trying to manipulate and almost like color the kind of perceptions that investigators are doing. Like, why is he trying to do this? There has to be some kind of agenda. I think he's really concerned that if he doesn't, do what he's doing, it's going to throw him completely in a position where he's going to have to answer for these security lapses. But to the original question, like, in regards to the intelligence attack, I mean, where is the proof? Where is the smoking gun? I'm not saying that this hasn't happened in the history of the world where intelligence agencies haven't done, extrajudicial killings. But where is that smoking gun? And I think in regards to the Pakistan issue, I mean, I don't want to name names, but there are people in the Trudeau government who are from the Pakistan lobby. And this cannot be underestimated. This cannot be downplayed. There's quite a large Pakistani community in Canada that vote Liberal. They vote solidly Liberal. They also vote NDP. And I think Mr. Trudeau has to play to his electoral base. But the Pakistan element should not be undermined. And also, not undermined, it shouldn't be ignored. And there's also one more dimension that I feel like people aren't talking about, and it's the China issue. We know that the Chinese have a lot of influence in Canada. They own a lot of real estate. They have a lot of companies that are partnered with Canadian energy companies. Huawei was very much ingrained in certain sensitive and critical technologies in Canada. And we do know that the Canadians, that the Chinese have even got MPs under their fingers. And there's a lot of documented cases. So I feel like there is some kind of coercion or pressure, perhaps from the Chinese, to influence Trudeau and get him to not talk about the Chinese, but China's enemy, India.
And now for the best, guys. As if all this is not enough, comes a new bombshell. Here we go. Is the real reason for Trudeau's lashing out drugs found on his plane? Now let's go back to G20 a few days back. Remember that Justin Trudeau and his entourage had to stay 2 more days in Delhi. They couldn't leave, and the technical snag was cited as the reason. Now news is coming. This is a Canadian-based website, TFI Global, and I'm going to give you the link in the description section, viewers. Be sure to read that. They also have a YouTube video on this. You can take a look at that one also. But the most important thing here is, were drugs found on the plane of Justin Trudeau? This is the official Canadian plane. And if so, the buck stops with him. I mean, he can't say that, I don't know, one of my aides got it. And this is the other kicker. I'm hearing that this plane is still in New Delhi. Remember, there was a replacement plane that was flown from Canada. Then it had to wait in London for a few hours. Something happened. Well, who knows? It could have been that in London, they just said, take out all the drugs. We don't want this one also to be sniffed and then grounded there. I mean, you can put up any kind of stories, right? So first I want Utsav Chakrabarti to weigh in on this. And then after that, I'll defer to Utsav Sandhuja. Utsav, go ahead.
So, one thing, I also just saw the news today, and thanks for sharing it, Sree. Well, it is not the first time that high security zones have had people who smuggle in drugs. The White House a couple of days ago released information after it was known publicly that cocaine was found in the White House. So it is not the first time this is happening. So I would not say that I am 100% sure that this happened, but it is in the realm of possibility, because as somebody who lives in Washington DC, I am fully aware of what happened in the White House a couple of days ago. Can this happen on a Canadian plane? Possible. What are the repercussions and implications of it? I don't know. But it's certainly, if something like this happened, it is going to play a role in influencing Prime Minister Trudeau's opinions and his personal egos, because one thing that everybody knows at this point of time, and it is both the Liberals and the Conservatives in Canada are talking about it, is that Trudeau's opinion polls are at an all-time low, and he's struggling to gain people's confidence, and he's struggling to press himself forward as a national security, as a tough guy. So if this was one of the news items that was out there that he knew it was playing in the back of his head, it could be connected to something that he wanted to mitigate by making that emergency allegation and statement at the Canadian Parliament. So, in today's world, with all the things that's happening around us, I'm not sure if this can be completely ruled out. But this is the first time I'm hearing about it, Sree. So thanks for sharing it.
Utsav Sandhuja, you worked in the government. Now, this guy, he's the head of state, and if drugs are found on a plane in Delhi, I mean, clearly he's responsible for it. I mean, there is no other way around it. Is this a deflection move that he's trying to do by, raising this Nijjar? Whole saga is to try and deflect away from a real problem. Indian government has been awfully quiet about it. They have not said anything. In fact, they even offered to fly him out on India's plane, and he refused. I mean, look, there are so many things that have happened here, circumstantial, that point to something like this happening. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is the first I've heard about it, and not to be pedantic, but Trudeau is head of government. Head of state is actually the monarch, and his representative, the governor general. But in regards to this drug issue, I mean, that would be the first I've heard of it. I do know a lot of service members that accompany the prime minister, and I don't believe for a second that they would tolerate such a thing. I again, I don't want to comment on something that really lacks more sourcing, but it would be interesting to note. The one thing, though, I would really like to say is, this Khalistan threat should not be ignored. Very recently, in the last, I would say, 24 hours or so, there was a Canadian Khalistani supporter who just admitted that he put out a hit on a Punjab Congress leader. And I don't know if your viewers are aware of that. There's a local leader in Punjab, a local Congress leader in Punjab, who was just assassinated. And there was a confession done by a Canadian Khalistani. And I'm just thinking to myself, what the heck is going on? Where is the government on this? Why aren't they doing anything? Why is Canada a sanctuary for these terrible people? Why is Pannu able to put out ridiculous ads that, cryptically hint at assassinating Indian diplomats? The fact that there is no rule of law in that country tells me everything I need to know. That I don't think it's just more than, oh yeah, Trudeau needs votes. I think the Canadian government truly dislikes Modi. And we know that because they've interfered in India's domestic politics. They've gone on record, joining in a chorus of human rights groups criticizing Hindutva, the rights of minorities in India, all that rubbish. We know that Soros is very much tied to the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. I think she's still the Deputy Prime Minister. I have to fact check that. 𝗤𝙭 𝗠𝗡𝐿. And we do know that there is a very anti-India sentiment by that government. And I think that people ought to really investigate this issue. And one more thing, everyone talks about that tableau of Indira Gandhi. I was disappointed to see the criticisms directed only at Trudeau and not the mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown. And he's a conservative, by the way, and I know him quite well. These conservatives, these liberals, these NDPers, it doesn't matter whatever their ideology is, they generally all have sympathies towards the Khalistanis. And remember, Pierre Poilievre, he had an anti-Khalistan resolution and then he withdrew it. Just saying.
Well, if you'd like to add something, Utsav Chakrabarti, then we can wrap up today's session.
Absolutely. So I just want to add, and again, I'm going to reiterate this again and again, because this is very important. And this is very important for American law enforcement to listen to. This is very important for Canadian law enforcement to listen to. Just a couple of months ago, NCRI Labs, which is a Rutgers University associated independent research body that is very well known for bringing out online research using AI technologies, they released a report, and it was carried in the Washington Post as well, about the connection between social media rhetoric from the Khalistan cult members and physical violence happening in America and other parts of the world. I'm going to reiterate this here, and I wish law enforcement in America, lawmakers in America, law enforcement in Canada, and MPs in Canada are listening to this. There is a real threat to the lives of Indian Americans, Hindu Americans, Indo-Canadians, and Hindus in Canada. That includes people from the Sikh community who are not of the part of the Khalistan cult. They face the biggest threats. So it is important that people take this very seriously. The Khalistan cult is not a non-violent or just a political cult. It has a record of, doing violence in its history in the past 50 years. And we need to take this very seriously. Our law enforcements need to take this very seriously. I will again refer to the NCRI Labs report. And I hope that our audiences carry this to their elected officials and take this very seriously. People's lives are at stake here.
Thank you so much, Utsav. Thank you so much, Utsav. And viewers, this is not the last word on this story. This is just breaking out. I'm sure we're going to have these two learned gentlemen back to talk more about it. The big thing that you all can do for us, viewers, is to like this video. Also, if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. Out of 100 viewers, we only have 60 who are subscribers. The other 40 are still sitting on the fence. Come on, think about it. I've taken so much pains to put together this slide deck. And it's factual. We are going to give you additional references. And Utsav is, a prime time of the day in DC. The two Utsavs have taken time out to talk to us. And it's the least we can do and doesn't cost you any money. Just subscribe to our channel if you've not already done so. Thank you once again, gentlemen, and hope to see you again real soon. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaste.